I thought that was an excellent setup for our series today. Relationships on autopilot. Am I hot?
Yeah, you are.
Drop me just a bit down. I feel really hot. That was me growling.
Man, what happened last
That's
night?
what that was. Yeah, actually, just take me completely out of the monitors. I think that would be lovely. Relationships on autopilot. How many would say, as he was talking about that, am I still on out there?
Yep.
Perfect. I love it. All right. Perfect. All right. I don't feel like I'm yelling at myself. How many would say that you operate most relationships, and as he was talking about it, you begin to really see it more and more, that you operate your relationships in a position of autopilot on a pretty regular basis? Was that like a wow moment? I mean, it was huge as you hear him explain it. You go, wow, that's how I am with pretty much everybody. Is I don't have to give much thought on how I interact and how this relationship pans out, because we know one another. We can survive in this mode, and it's a pretty easy place to go. I would say that's where Mel and I have lived for a good 20, almost 23 years of marriage. 23 in August. That's pretty exciting. And you're not proud of it. It's something we do. And autopilot. But recently, I actually started going and seeing a therapist because when my wife puts it, I was a bit of an asshole. So I sat down with a therapist, and they're like, "Why are you here?" I'm like, "Because I'm an asshole." And so we've been working for a while on getting that fixed. And I would say I'm not nearly as much anymore as I used to be, right? Yeah, maybe half the time now. A third? Quarter? How close am I? But a lot of it, as I look back and even as I saw this video, I was like, you know what, so much of our relationship was being lived in a position of autopilot, of not having to interact and ask questions and discover and dig, and it's like, what, you like that now? No, you like that. Well, I used to like that 10 years ago, I don't anymore. And things change, things adjust, things move. And let me just say, if you want healthy relationships, and for the sake of this whole series, when I say relationships, don't just think of the person you're sexually intimate with. Don't think just that. It's every relationship you have is really what we're going to try and cover in the 6-week series. So we're going to go through everything. So be thinking about, like, when I say relationships, don't automatically just jump to your partner, but be thinking about all the different places that your relationships play out. And I think it's true that most of our relationships, we live in a position of autopilot, and we don't spend the time or the energy or the investment to get to where they need to be. So that's my goal, that's my drive, that's where we're going, and I hope you're excited. Anybody looking forward to this relationship series? Anybody dredging this relationship series? Anybody feel like you've gone through so many church relationship series that you're like, just forget this? Yeah, I'm with you. So we're going to try our best to not make this that, okay? Which I think we've already done. I don't know how many churches talk about neurobiological cortical frontal lobotomies or things like that we went through this morning. So that was really good. Was that good for you? Yeah. It was good for you? Okay. Excellent. I'm glad to hear that. Oh, what was the other comment you said towards the end that had like that moment for everybody? Oh, it was so good. Yeah, respect and protect. Create a place of safety. But you have one more just like bomb dropper. That was really
each other's back. Kudos.
Yes, that was the one I was thinking about. Was the sideways glances in the car being yeah. So no more fighting in the car. And if you start a fight in the car, just be like, hey, remember David said we can't fight in the car. Wait till we get home. We'll do this thing right. So yeah, no more fighting in the car. Text, I hate fighting over text. Anybody like, that's just, yeah, that's evil. Dean and I, we fight over text a lot about like what's happening on Sunday mornings. And I'm always like, you know what, forget this. I'm done arguing with you over text, because you never know like how angry is the other person right now. Like, are you at a 7 or are you at a 10? Yeah, if you're not on caps, you know you're good. That's good. So that's awesome. All right. So here we go. Let's get into this, because I have limited time, because we're going to do some fun stuff at the end. I know you all love it when I say stuff like that. You're like, this is the day I should have skipped. Darn it. I would just say I love my kids. How many of them are in here today? Any of my kids in here today? My son Kyle's up top. Espen, you're not my kid. I like you, bro. Promise you got an amazing mom and dad. Like, yeah, you really do. Is that it? Just Kyle's my only kid in here?
Yep.
All right, the other ones are helping out in the kids' room. So then I'll talk about Kyle. Kyle is my 19-year-old. And I have to say that I have loved Kyle longer than I've loved any of my other kids.
Wow. Kyle, you should feel blessed.
Straight up truth right there. And I'll tell you what I really want for him. To get out of my house. And I say that because that's what you're supposed to say when you have a 19-year-old living with you. In his defense, he did graduate, a year later, so he actually isn't that off, So it'd be like having an 18-year-old living in your house. But as much as I joke about saying, like, I want him gone, like, I dread the day when he moves out. And he's been hanging out with Derek a lot lately. And Derek, if you don't know, Derek is, our last week with Derek. He's preparing to go and be with his family in Alabama for a while. So we're going to miss him. But I'm super excited because I'm going to see my kid again. Because my kid has been, like, spending every waking moment with Derek. Like, every time we come, I'm just with Derek. And there's been this, like, loss of our child. Even though he hasn't moved out, like, he sleeps at home, like, one night a week right now. No, I don't think you're doing that right now. No. So, yeah, he's never at home. But it's okay because I know he hasn't moved out yet. Like, he's still got so much crap in my garage I wish he would get out. And his bedroom still is. So I know he's there. But when that day comes where he's not there, like, I am so dreading that reality coming. Which is kind of interesting because you realize that there used to be a day where kids didn't actually, like, move away. Instead, the family just kept getting bigger and bigger, and the great-grandparents lived there, and the grandparents lived there, and the families and the aunts. And there was a time where extended family being all together was what we did. We did it because we needed it. You needed the strength, you needed the numbers, you needed the tribalism, you needed family. And it's interesting because that was a big part of how we existed for thousands of years, was in these settings where family members never left. And if they did leave, they would just move to, like, the hut next door or the teepee next door. But the truth is that nowadays that's not the case at all. How many of you guys live within 5 minutes of family members?
Woo!
So very, very small percentage of individuals. And the ones that had hands up, you guys were, for the most part, born here.
No.
He wasn't. I was.
You were born here.
No.
Texas.
Jersey.
All right, but you've been here for like 30-some, 40-some years.
Hey, I'm not even that old. 30-something.
All right, close to it. But the point is that most of us are here because we moved away from family at some point. And some of us are on our third or fourth move away from locations and places. And we're in a place where now, like, we don't have these connections, where we live very isolated lives. We live very, broken apart, segregated lives. And we live in a position of individual. I promise I did not drink last night. Individualistic culture, where we have made it all about us, our little tiny unit, and we're in a place where we are very alone for the most part. Where most people's closest relationships are their coworkers. Think about it. How many people do you know, and the only real relationships they have are with coworkers? And, like, how many people consider you their friend, and you're like, I'm not a very good friend to this person, but, like, you're all they have. Like, you're the best connection they have in life right now. And it's a sad state of reality that we currently live in, where most people do not have relationships. And those who do have them see them as very fleeting relationships. As he talked about, there's no security, there's no stability, there's no safety within it. So many people live life very much alone and afraid, in a position where they don't know, if something goes wrong to this person, what in the world would I ever do? I remember when we first moved to Florida, it was such a scary thing. We had, like, nobody here we could call and we could trust. I remember we moved into the house in the church we were part of. We were expecting like they'd send a couple people over to help us like unload the truck and stuff, and like there was nobody. It was literally my wife and I, my mother had come, and then Melanie's parents, who at the time were not in great health. And then when we moved here, Kyle was 12? 13? So he was my oldest, and the rest were like 11, 9, 7. And we had gotten to a 3-bedroom condo. And I remember trying to like unload this truck, and it was 90-some degrees. The AC wasn't working. There was no power in the house. And I remember thinking, what in the hell did we do? And in that moment, I was like, what kind of a church did I take a job at? And so it was such a, I remember, frightening moment. And then as, my mom flew back to Seattle, and Melanie's parents flew back to Seattle, we're like, we are alone in the world right now. And I remember just how frightening that was. Maybe you had experiences similar to that when it's just such a horrible place to be. But the truth is, this is where most people live. And for the longest time, church was like your way to get over that. You just find a good church, you connect to a good church. But I don't know if you know this, but South Florida is really hard to connect into churches. We've got a good amount of them, and we've got some good quality ones. But as a result, most people spend a huge portion of their time just bouncing from church to church. And so they never actually get to establish those long-term relationships or that security. Or, quick survey, how many of you have been hurt by somebody in the church before? So you show up, even at somewhere like East Coast, and your question is, how long until somebody here hurts me? How long until somebody here betrays me? How long until, the leadership says, hey, you don't fit, it's time to move on. It's a scary, scary place to be, and I recognize that. So that's where all of this is coming from, is I believe we need to become experts at relationships. So we're literally going to take 6 weeks. We're going to have 2 different guest speakers during this series, so you don't have to hear from me for all 6 of those weeks. But I'm excited because I think we're supposed to be in a relationship. Anybody else think that's the case? In fact, God kind of modeled this for us. And our understanding of God, we see was what is called the Trinity, which is Father, Son, Holy Spirit. 3 unique and yet all tied completely together. I think that's the picture that we're supposed to have. Is unique, different, but yet all together, all one. And look at your neighbor and say, will you be part of my one?
Will you be part of my one?
Isn't that just awkward? And then look at them and be like, do you want to be the Father, the Son, or the Holy Spirit?
Which one do you want to be?
This series is titled Genesis 2:18. Anybody got Genesis 2:18 memorized? You got Genesis 2:18 memorized? Nobody? All right, why don't you put it on the screen for me? Genesis 2:18. Read it with me. Then the Lord, read it with me. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner." One more time. Then the Lord God said, "It is not good that the man should be alone. I will make him a helper as his partner." Everybody say, it is not good.
It's not good
To be alone.
to be alone.
I need a help.
It is not good to be alone. Everybody say, I need helpers.
I need helpers.
Anybody that hurt to say that? To say you needed a helper? Because I don't know about you, but I feel like I'm pretty good doing stuff on my own. And people oftentimes just get in the way and mess stuff up. If you want something right, you do it yourself. So this idea of it's not good to try and do things alone, it's not good to be alone, it's hard. But the truth is, we need it. Everybody say, I need people.
I need people.
Now, the introverts in the room, you haven't said anything yet because that's not what you do. Can I tell you, even as an introvert, you need people. You just need them differently. See, extroverts, we draw our power and like our energy from people. Introverts, you still need people. You just need them in a different fashion. And you don't need them oftentimes in large abundances, but the truth is you still need people. So even if you're an introvert, push past that mindset that says, I don't need anybody. Yes, you thrive, you dwell in your alone places, and those are good places to be, but know that it is not good for you to be alone all the time. All right, so some of you need to modify that verse and just put the word all the time there, because I know for some of you, it's good for you to be alone. Are you with me? Why do we know that it's not good to be alone, other than the fact that the Bible says it and God demonstrates it in the Trinity? How about this? What is the worst form of punishment that the prison system does today?
Isolation.
Solitary confinement and isolation. Why is that?
You go crazy.
You go crazy. They're actually fighting hard. ACLU for years has been trying to stop it because of the psychological impact that solitary confinement has on prisoners. They've yet to actually find any benefit in it. All they've found so far is like how bad it is for your psyche to be locked up by yourself for extended periods of time. And so if that's how we punish people, then obviously it should be a pretty good example for us that this is not the way you're supposed to live. That living in a place of isolation and being alone is not okay. Charles Dickens, when he visited the prison, said that he said the psychological damage is far worse than anything physically they could do to prisoners because of the impact that it has on your brain to be in that alone state. We were made for relationships. We need relationships. Can I get a Somebody who doesn't have a family is called a orphan. Orphan. And for far too long, many of us have thought it was okay to be orphans. Can I tell you, it is not. You were meant for family. You were meant to be included. You were meant to be a part. And my hope and prayer is that East Coast can become a family for you. If it can't, my hope and prayer is that you could find a church that could become a family for you, or you could find a community that could become a family for you. But every one of us need a family. Being an orphan is not okay, and if you don't believe me, just look at poor little Annie.
Terrible example.
Relationships.
Terrible example.
Are you done? How many of you guys think Joey should get a turn up here some week? Wow. He's actually just really good at the zingers. So, well, I think he can bring something good. So we'll talk about that. All right.
Pastor Joey.
So I want to highlight again, what we're going to cover over the next 6 weeks is going to be lots of different aspects of relationship, because there are so many different relationships that go into keeping us healthy and causing us to move forward. My best relationship is with my best friend, which is my lovely, put your hand down, John.
It's heartbroken now.
Is with my lovely bride Melanie, and this is a relationship that has no boundaries, where there's conversations that we have that I don't have with anybody else, where there's things that we experience together that we don't experience with other people. That this is, what'd you just say? That's a good thing. Thank you, Mother. She literally is my mother. There's things that happen here that don't happen elsewhere. But do you know that there are parts of Melanie that lack in areas that I have needs? There are things within her that she cannot meet that I have to figure out what do I do with that. For example, when I start using big words, we don't get along really well. She's like, if you ever say the word penal substitutionary atonement again, I am done with you. So because of that, I've got friends like John and Kirsten that I can talk about penal substitutionary atonement all day long with, and it's like this healthy. Like John and I, we go out to lunch probably every other week or so. He always initiates it because I don't really need the relationship. It's more about him than me. But he'll text me like, you want to do lunch? And I'm like, not really, but I guess I have to because I'm your pastor. And so we'll go and do lunch together, and we'll have like these amazing conversations. It's like, well, what do you think about this? And I'm like, I've never thought about that before. And now we're in this big, huge conversation. So there's places my brain wants to go that I don't go with Melanie because I know that's not where she has any desire or will to go to. So I've got John for that purpose. I've got other friends that I know, my buddy Jeff, who lives in California, that doesn't know any of you. So when I want to bitch and moan about you, instead of like talking to people here about how much I don't like this person or that person, I'll call up Jeff and I'll be like, Jeff, I just got to tell you about Ann, because right now she is, I pick Ann because Ann's the least offensive person in the church. So, well, for the most part, I don't know, maybe you're saying stuff on my back, I don't know, but to the best of my understanding, we don't ever fight. So, but I can call Jeff and I can talk about my challenges and my struggles in ministry and what I'm going through, because he's a pastor and he knows what it's like to deal with church stuff that other people wouldn't be able to have conversations with and understand. Are you with me? Does that make sense? So I have lots of different people in my life for lots of different purposes. I've got people that I enjoy going out and drinking with because they're really good at it. So they're my drinking friends. You got caught, you didn't?
The kid got called.
Oh, you got called.
That is
Yeah.
awesome.
Seriously, she texted him. She's like, put up my number because I have to go to the bathroom. I don't want to say it again. She did. But there is all kinds of people in my life that feel all those different elements of the needs that I have in places that I need to find security, safety, and in places I can be vulnerable with. So I say that because it took a lot of time to develop those relationships, to get those people, to establish those different connections. And I say all that to say, as we go through this series, you may be sitting there going, David, I only have one friend. Or you might be going, I don't even know if I have anybody I would consider a friend. That's okay. Because for the next 5 weeks, we're going to look at how do you get to that place where you build those relationships, where you cultivate them, where you grow in them. But today, my desire is to help you understand you need this. That relationships are essential and you cannot survive without them. And you need all kinds of them. You need ones where you've got people speaking into you. You need ones where you're speaking into other people. You need relationships like I have with Ted, where Ted pulls me inside and goes, hey, I think this thing you did was really stupid. You probably shouldn't do that again. I'm like, you're probably right, Ted, but I'll probably do it again. You need people in your life that'll call you out on stuff and say, hey, that's a dumb place to go. You know, the people like Chris is one of my biggest cheerleaders, and he's like, hey, you know, you're not as bad as you think you are. And I'm like, thank you so much, Chris. And every time I think about you, I think that, you know. So you need those relationships in your life that allow you to be able to move and to move forward. And you have to be okay with people in your life having relationships that aren't you as well. I know I was busting you guys and Gary and Donald because the four of you went out to lunch, or no, you went to dinner at, where'd you go to dinner on Friday night? Yeah. Yeah, so they're posting this crap on Facebook. Oh, look, the four of us are having dinner together. And so Paula puts on there, I didn't get my invite. And I responded, nor did I. And can I tell you, like, it's okay for your friends to have other friends. And for you not to be invited into what they're doing. Are you with me?
Yes, amen.
So my wife has a best friend. They've been best friends since they were like 13 and 15 and 14, 15, 6, somewhere. 12. We're just going to go with 12. They've been best friends for a really long time, and since she's now 32, that's 20 years of a friendship.
She was 2 when she had it first.
Yeah,
Well played.
That's funny. Good job on the math. Little Rock is no math. Whenever she goes to Gina, I'm always like, I can't believe she's going to Gina's house. Like, am I not good enough for her? And the truth is, like, no, I'm not good enough for her. Like, she needs 4 days to just go and be with her friend Gina, because when her and Gina are together, there's a safety and a connection that they've developed over about 30 years of life together. So when she goes to Gina, I know that when she comes back, she's going to be encouraged, she's going to be strengthened, she's going to be feeling a sense of security, and all of these things that healthy relationships build in you. So you have to learn to be okay with that, right? Is that making sense? All right. I'm almost out of time, and I can't be out of time because there's a lot of stuff I want to cover. Let me just say, relationships are hard, they're messy, but they are necessary. It is easier and simpler to do life alone, but it's not sustainable. Okay, you cannot do everything. In fact, you're going to start to notice over the next month or so a lot of radical changes at East Coast as we give more and more responsibility to more and more people. Because if we want to see this thing continue to go and move forward, it's going to require people that can do stuff better than I can do it. So understand that's hard for me, because I'm like, no, anything you can do, I can do better. And so, like, that's my philosophy. But the truth is that I need to be able to give things away if we're going to continue to move forward as an organization. Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Jesus had lots of relationships. He had relationships with the masses. He had relationships with the 500. He had relationships with the 200. He had relationships with the 72. Then he had relationships with the 12. And then he had friendships, super tight friendships, with 3 particular guys that were in his inner circle. So what you see is that even Jesus modeled different relationships, different purposes, all of them radically necessary. All right. Here we go. 3 reasons why we need relationships. I figured if I didn't give you points, you wouldn't think I actually preached. So here we go. In 4 minutes, I'm going to give you 3 reasons why we need relationships. First of all, it is not good for man to be alone. Can I get an aha again? Because he needs a helper. Which is interesting. How often do you go into a relationship going, I'm coming into this relationship because this person needs a helper? Yeah, that's really what it's about, right? Is it a very real relationship if you come into this going, I'm going to move into this relationship because I need things? But how often is that why we go into a relationship, going, but it's the other? Okay. Let's go and put up reason number 1. You need relationships to be encouraged. What is encouraged? Encouraged to be filled with courage, to be made brave, to cause to go on. In your life, there's lots of chances for you to back down. There's lots of chances for you not to become who you're supposed to be, for you not to move forward. One of my children, I won't tell you which one, will not go into our garage unless one of his brothers goes with him.
Kyle.
I won't tell you which one, and I won't tell you that he's probably in this room, but one of my... It's not Kyle. And it's not Michael, so I won't tell you which of the other 2 it is. But literally, like, our fridge is 2 steps out of the garage door, and that's where we keep our soda. So I'm like, hey, go grab me a soda, which is the only reason I had kids, which was to say, go give me a soda from the fridge. And so I hear him say to his brother, hey, so-and-so, you go with me? And they're like, no, it's 2 steps in the garage. I know, I just want you to go with me. And it's so funny to watch this interaction. But in life, we need to be made brave. And oftentimes the only way we're made brave is with somebody else. How many of you won't watch a scary movie unless somebody else watches it with you? Why? Because you need the courage. You need somebody else there with you. Encourage. You can't be everything you're supposed to be. You can't be made who you're supposed to be unless you receive that courage. Hebrews 10:24-25 says it like this. And let us consider how to provoke one another to love and good deeds, not neglecting to meet together as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Let us consider how we can push each other on to even more good things in life. How can we help somebody become everything they're supposed to be by speaking courage into them? Let's encourage one another. How often? Always. Always. All right. Number 2. You need relationships for emotional release. Life is meant to be experienced together emotionally. I know a lot of us have gotten really good at like flipping that switch and we're like, emotions, what the hell are those? You are supposed to live in your emotions. There is so much of life you cannot experience without emotions. I haven't seen the new Avenger movie, but I know my boys came home and they were crying after the Avengers movie. So now I'm like, so apparently it makes you cry. So, which is like, Avengers, you cry, but they're like, no, Dad, I can't say anything, but, it's bad. So you're supposed to live emotionally. In fact, here's Romans 12:15 says it like this. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. Rejoice with those who rejoice, weep with those who weep. You are meant to laugh with people, you're meant to cry with people, you're meant to hurt with people, but you are meant to experience emotions with people. Look at somebody next to you and say, let's get emotional, baby. You are meant to be emotional. All right, give me the next one. Shared experience. You need relationships because you were meant for shared experience. There are things that cannot be accomplished without each other. You need people to accomplish everything you're supposed to accomplish. And the verse for that would be 1 Corinthians 12, all of it. So I'm not going to read it now, but you can go home and read it. 1 Corinthians 12, all of it. It's all about the fact that we need each other. We cannot be complete without one another. Are you with me? All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to move this over here. It is 11:05. Give me a hand. I finished All right, which means we have 10 minutes. You don't get to leave yet.
Oh, I was like, no.
You got 10 minutes. All right. Perfect. I finished to leave me 10 minutes. The clock's where it's supposed to be. All right. So here's what we're going to do. For this entire series, we are going to keep reflection in the middle of the service time. So communion will happen in the middle. Because I think we need to work on community together. You need to force yourself into some relationships together. And a bunch of you right now are going, I hate you, David. You're going to hate me when the 10-minute timer goes on the screen. That's when you're really going to hate me. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend 10 minutes, and we are going to relate to each other. We're going to not alone with each other. We're going to connect to people. We're going to talk to people. We're going to say, hey, and hi, and my name is, and my name is, and what do you like to do? Where are you from? You're going to do whatever you do, but you're going to do it because it is not good to be alone. Can I tell you, in this room might be one of your best friends, and you don't even know it yet. These two here, those two, yeah, they are like identical twins, but born from like completely different sets of parents. But the relationship they have with each other is one of the coolest relationships I've ever seen. And she's a lesbian, so it's not like an attraction type thing. So, it rains hot, okay. But do you know that it wasn't but, a year and a half ago that they didn't have this relationship. They just started hanging out as a couple together, and over time, they went, wow, we really are very similar people. We have a lot of the same likes and interests, and now they're super good friends. Like, they have the same birthday.
Yep.
Maybe they are twins and the hospital got messed up or something. But I say all that to say there's hope for you. You might be here going, David, I feel alone. If that's the case, don't run out of here. Normally, I'd still be rambling for 10 more minutes, okay? So I stopped rambling early so you would have time to be able to connect with people. The tear down people are not going to start tearing down yet. Until that countdown says 0, they're not going to tear down. Because we're literally going to take 10 minutes and relate. Problem is you can't relate without food, right? So I took care of that. Oh, just wait. This is so good. Okay. I'm not good at taking off dresses. Come on. All right. Real quick. Cheddar cheese. Who wants it?